Imagine standing on a balcony overlooking the Nasdaq floor. Confetti is raining down. Cameras are flashing, blindingly bright. The deafening sound of applause is washing over you. You are about to ring the opening bell because your company, the one you built from nothing, is now worth $1.6 billion. But you aren't just standing there in a power suit shaking hands with old men in ties. You are holding your toddler on your hip. This image, this single moment broke the internet. It shattered the stereotype of what a billionaire CEO looks like. But to get to that balcony, to that billion-dollar valuation, Katrina Lake had to walk through fire. She had to survive 100 no's. She had to max out credit cards until they stopped working. She had to do something that everyone said was impossible: teach a computer how to have style. Most people look at a billionaire and see the finish line. They see the private jets, the magazine covers, the net worth that looks like a phone number. But today, we aren't looking at the finish line. We are going back to the apartment. The messy, cramped apartment in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where Katrina Lake was drowning in clothes she couldn't afford to buy and boxes she couldn't afford to ship. She wasn't a fashion designer. She wasn't a coding genius. She was just a student with a gut feeling that the world was shopping all wrong. Let's rewind to 2011. The world of retail was boring. You had two choices. Option 1. You walk into a mall, spend hours digging through racks of clothes that don't fit, dealing with bad lighting and pushy salespeople, only to leave with a shirt you'll never wear. Option 2, you go online, scroll through 10,000 pages of inventory on Amazon or eBay feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume of stuff. It was exhausting. It was inefficient. And Katrina Lake saw a gap the size of the Grand Canyon. She realized that people didn't want more choices. They wanted better choices. They wanted someone to do the work for them. But personal stylists, that was a luxury for the rich and famous. If you weren't a celebrity walking the red carpet, you didn't get a personal shopper. Katrina asked a simple, dangerous question. What if I could democratize personal styling? What if I could use data to predict exactly what a woman wants to wear before she even knows it herself? It sounds brilliant now, but back then it sounded like a joke. Katrina didn't have a team of engineers. She didn't have an app. She didn't have millions in venture capital. She had a SurveyMonkey form and an Excel spreadsheet. That was it. That was the billion-dollar technology. She would send a survey to friends asking about their size, their style, their budget. Then she would physically go to retail stores, buy clothes on her own credit card, put them in a box and mail them to her friends. If they liked it, they kept it. If they didn't, they sent it back, and she would have to run back to the store to return it before the 30-day return policy expired. Her apartment became a warehouse. Her living room was a maze of cardboard boxes and packing tape. She was the CEO, the packer, the stylist, and the customer service rep. Every single day was a race against the clock and her bank account. She was bleeding cash. She was buying clothes at full retail price and selling them at full retail price. There was no profit margin. On paper, this was a terrible business. It was a logistical nightmare. But something incredible was happening in that Excel spreadsheet. Katrina wasn't just selling clothes. She was collecting data. Every time a customer returned a shirt, she asked why. Was it too tight, too loose, wrong color, too expensive? She logged every single answer. She began to see patterns that traditional retailers were blind to. She realized that medium meant nothing. A medium in one brand was an extra large in another. She started building a dataset that linked physical measurements to subjective preferences. She was building the brain of her future company, one row in Excel at a time. She knew she was onto something huge. She needed capital to scale. She needed to hire actual data scientists to turn her spreadsheet into an algorithm. So she went to Silicon Valley. She walked into boardrooms filled with older men, the gatekeepers of the tech world. She pitched her vision, a service that combines human intuition with hard data science to deliver a box of clothes perfectly curated for you, delivered to your door. And they laughed. Not literally, maybe, but the rejection was brutal. They didn't get it. One investor told her, "I asked my wife and she said she likes shopping, so this won't work." Another said, "Women enjoy the hunt. They don't want a computer choosing for them." They saw a clothing company. They saw a cute project. They didn't see a data company. They didn't see that Katrina wasn't building a store. She was building a prediction engine like Netflix, but for your closet. She was rejected over and over again. While her male counterparts in Silicon Valley were raising millions for juice presses and dog walking apps with nothing but a PowerPoint slide, Katrina had a working business with revenue, and she couldn't get a check. It was demoralizing. It was enough to make anyone quit. She had less than 6 weeks of cash left in the bank. The dream was about to die. There's a moment in every entrepreneur's life where the road ends. You have no money, no support, and the world is telling you to stop. This was Katrina's moment. She had to make a choice, fold the company and go get a safe job, or bet everything on one last push. She chose the bet. She realized she didn't need all the investors. She just needed one who understood the vision. She finally found Steve Anderson from Baseline Ventures. He didn't care about fashion. He cared about the numbers. And when he looked at Katrina's data, not the clothes, the data, he saw the magic. He saw high retention rates. He saw that customers were addicted to the surprise of opening that box. He wrote the check. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was oxygen. It was life. With that money, Katrina didn't rent a fancy office or throw a launch party. She hired an astrophysicist. Yes, you heard that right. She hired a man named Eric Colson, who was the VP of data science at Netflix. She convinced him to leave the biggest streaming platform in the world to come work for a tiny startup selling sweaters. Why? Because she showed him the data problems they could solve. She offered him a playground of algorithms that no one had ever built before. Together, they built Stitch Fix. The algorithm became the secret sauce. It learned your style better than your best friend. It knew that if you liked a certain type of denim, you probably wouldn't like a certain type of silk blouse. It knew that you were in your second trimester of pregnancy and needed adjustable waistbands. It was personal, intimate, and scalable. The company exploded. They went from shipping boxes out of an apartment to massive warehouses across the country. But with hypergrowth came new nightmares. They grew so fast they broke their own systems. Warehouses were overwhelmed. They were running out of inventory. The pressure on Katrina was immense. She wasn't just managing data anymore. She was managing thousands of employees. She was dealing with the press, the public, and the constant skepticism that a female CEO in tech could actually pull this off. And then she got pregnant. In the high-stakes world of startups, pregnancy is often viewed as a distraction. People whispered, "Can she handle the IPO and a newborn? Will she step down?" Katrina ignored the noise. She worked through the pregnancy, driving the company toward the biggest milestone in business, the initial public offering, the IPO. November 17th, 2017. The day arrived. Stitch Fix was going public. Katrina Lake was 34 years old. She was the youngest female founder to ever take a company public at that time. She stood on the podium at NASDAQ. The world was watching, and in a move that would become legendary, she didn't hide her motherhood. She held her son in her arms as the ticker symbol SFIX flashed on the screens. That day, her net worth skyrocketed. But the money, which was now in the hundreds of millions, was secondary to the statement she made. She proved that you can be a mother and a CEO. She proved that fashion is a serious technology business. She proved that gut feeling, backed by data, is unstoppable. Today, Stitch Fix serves millions of clients. It generates over $1 billion in annual revenue. But the lesson here isn't about clothes. It's not even about algorithms. The lesson is about seeing value where others see nothing. Katrina Lake's strategy was replicable, and you can apply it to your life right now. First, she started with a minimum viable product. She didn't wait for the perfect app. She used Excel and manual labor. What idea are you sitting on because you think you need $1 million to start? Start with what you have. Start with the Excel sheet version of your dream. Second, she listened to the data, not the experts. The experts said women love shopping. The data said women are busy and want help. Who are you listening to? The doubters in your life or the actual evidence of what people need? And finally, she leveraged her unique perspective. Being an outsider in Silicon Valley, a woman who loved fashion, was her superpower. She saw a problem the men in hoodies missed completely. What is your unique disadvantage? How can you flip it into your greatest asset? Katrina Lake didn't have a roadmap. She didn't have a guarantee. She had a box, a spreadsheet, and the relentless belief that she could do it better. She turned a struggle with shipping boxes into a billion-dollar empire. The question is, what are you going to build with the boxes in your living room? Opportunities are hiding in plain sight. They are in the frustrations you feel every day. They are in the boring industries that haven't changed in 50 years. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect time. The bell is ringing. It's your turn to answer.